I'm involved with several organizations that support female entrepreneurs. When we fill out the evaluation forms, we have the opportunity to check a box as to whether or not we want to be an advisor. I felt like Letitia at the time had an excellent story, but it was understated. So we connected, met in Paris a couple of times. At the time we were talking about strategies for doing our next fundraising round. That resulted in a further conversation when she decided to move her headquarters to New York, and she asked me if I would step up to becoming more involved, so we worked out a working relationship. The initial thing was to hire a US sales force. So back in January, February of the year, I went through maybe 400 resumes and 50 phone interviews, and then maybe a dozen interviews that resulted in hiring the first salesperson in the US. And since then, it's just been strategic advice, either about markets or about cities, or just language and culture. So we've had a lot of fun with it. So we've worked together about 15, 16 months now. When Letitia presented to Astia, I felt like she had a very understated story. In the 7 years that they'd been in existence, they had succeeded in signing up roughly 22 cities on 2 continents, in Europe and in South America, to multi-year contracts, either anywhere from 4 to 15 years, where they were the exclusive beacon provider in public spaces. That's very powerful, because if you can lock up a city for multiple years, you just go out and do it. And it was costing $100,000 to $120,000 per major city. And part of the conversation was that with serious Silicon Valley capital behind her, they just tell her to go out and do it. Forget about getting stuck in long 12 to 18 month cycles of RFPs and bidding and everything else that you have to do to cities. Just go ahead and do it. If you can get a multi-year lockup, you should be able to find venture capital support to just go out and grab those cities. So that's basically what led to further conversations.
When I met with Roy the first time, so after the screening with Astia, when we met in Paris, Roy, for me, has a very good understanding about the potential of business of Connect Things. Roy has an American way of thinking about how to expand a business in the US, how to raise funds. So for me, it was these keys that make Roy very interesting to be part of the Connect Things adventure. When you expand to a new country or to a new continent, you need to go fast. Okay, you have raised funds, and now you need to go fast in this new market. So for me, the first things to deal with is first the culture, not to take too much time to understand the culture. So in North America, the second point is to build a team. So to go fast, to have a team that works directly on the business. And the third point is to start to work on the next fundraising we plan to do in the US, and to enter the new code and key points to highlight to get capital in the US.
There are a few things I can add. There are subtle cultural differences, both in the language and in the way you approach business. As an example, most Europeans, when you put together a presentation, they went to the bottom line up front and then how you got to the bottom line. The American culture is to build a story, go through how you got there, and then provide the bottom line at the end. Most Europeans won't sit through a presentation like that. They want to know the bottom line to begin with. So little subtle things like that can cause friction between management and the workers in a company. There are other cultural differences as well. The business culture in the US tends to be overly optimistic, whether you're doing sales forecast numbers or trying to give the probability of closing a deal, where they're over the top optimistic, where Europeans tend to be more down-to-earth pessimistic about it. They will tend to understate instead of overstate. So there is very often a gap between what an American will say and what a European would say on simple things, whether it's financials or sales forecasts or whatever. There's also, in terms of coming into the US, the language, particularly if you're heavily accented. A lot of times another American, even though you're speaking very poor, proper English, until their ear is attuned to your accent, they don't understand half the words you're saying. So just being there to act as a interpreter or guide so that in important conversations, both sides of the conversation understand and take away the same thing that was said. You know, making sure that he understands what she said and she understands what he said. So it's just acting as an interface in some of those key meetings and conversations, at least in the beginning, until things are rolling along on their own.
So for me, it's first to discover a new culture, to help me to enter a new culture, the American culture. Then it's also to have a new friend with Roy and an American one that make me so discover the culture, help me in my business, but also help me to give me the opportunity to meet with other people in the US, Jane and other people we met together.
For me, at this stage in my life, the most important work core value for me is enjoying what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with. I'm in a stage in my life where you don't need the income, it's about adding value. For me, it's an opportunity to stay intellectually engaged and active and have fun.
It has been a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. I think that we can talk to each other really like friends. That means that if I have something in the business or something in the team that I am not happy with, I can tell it to Roy, and it's this confidence is very important for me.
For me, I think the communications have always been very open and very candid. And you have to approach it with a good sense of humor and have fun with it. So to me, the bottom line is having fun and doing it within the context of actually accomplishing and achieving something.
I will not have do anything differently. I think that it's a friendship, and that the friendship come as it is, and I will not have changed anything.
I, as well, would not change anything in the relationship. There are things that one might do differently. One of the best things about Letitia is she's very capital efficient. One of the bad things is she's capital efficient. In the US culture, she's competing with organizations that are not capital efficient. They throw everything they have just to go as fast as they can, and most of those companies will flame out. So the good news is Letitia and her company are going to be around for a long time. The bad news is the American way would be throw a lot more at it, a lot faster. But other than that, nothing. It's been a pure pleasure.
On my side, I think that I will continue to support and lead Connect Things to make it a big company. And I hope that Roy will be involved and with us as long as I am in Connect Things.
I'll continue my involvement to whatever level that Letitia ever needs. I've really enjoyed it. The reality, though, is over this past year, she's become a lot more self-sufficient, and my value to her is probably winding down quite a bit. When I'm not doing those activities, I'm working on a novel and a couple of screenplays. I'm an artist and writer when I'm not doing corporate involvement.